What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Sports 2.0 show. I'm going to be your host today, Erik Neff. I'm very excited to bring on Vincent Graziano, my guest today, Sports 2.0 Network. Vince, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How's it going?
Going great. Baseball-wise, not so great, but my Bulls are out there making money moves, so I can't complain about that. You know, they're at least. I feel like we're at least trying to maybe win a basketball game this year. So I'm pretty pumped about that. But baseball season, man, let's get right into it. I know you're a big Yankees guy. Hell of a debut by one of your guys' prospects yesterday. Kind of reminded me of the Garcia debut a year ago against the Mets, actually. Luis Gil comes out just throwing straight fire yesterday. What'd you see?
I saw a confident young kid. I mean, every time you saw the ball in the air, he'd put his hand up. He knew exactly where the ball was going. I mean, he looked good. His fastball had some pop to it. 6 strikeouts in 6 innings pitched, only 4 hits. I mean, obviously the Orioles don't have the most explosive lineup in baseball, but they have some pretty good hitters in there.
Yeah.
So, and like you were saying before, we were talking before, Boone said he might keep him around and have him pitch Sunday. So I'm interested to see how he'll do if he can follow up that start with more success. But as a fan, it was encouraging to see with some struggling coming from the starting pitching lately.
Absolutely. And, you know, the guy he was replacing last night, not exactly struggling this season, but agreed that's a rotation that needs some bolstering and definitely will need some bolstering in the future. And I think Gil and Garcia are going to be just awesome additions to that. And, man, that fastball was wicked. I had to look up I'm kind of a spin rate guy, so I had to check it out just to see. Almost 2,500 RPM, sitting in 90th percentile. If, of course, that would be with a minimum, but if he is able to maintain that fastball up in the strike zone like that, I mean, that's impossible. You can't hit that out of the yard, even in Yankee Stadium. So really excited for the young kid. Love seeing these young kids get a chance mid-season, completely random. And like you said, excited to see him again Sunday, and hope he can keep the momentum going. That would be great. And speaking of pitchers keeping momentum going, that one old guy that used to play for the Nationals and is out in LA now, he didn't do much. He just came out and struck out 10 in his debut. Is this guy ever going to slow down, or is he just going to be 40 years old out here striking out a dozen guys every week?
He reminds me of LeBron James, never unaging pitcher. I mean, he's looked phenomenal all season long. He really hasn't let up ever since he started on this tear. It's going to be hard to hit this guy no matter who you are, no matter what team you play for. This is a huge pickup for LA, who's trying to make a World Series push, obviously, and the Giants are starting to struggle a bit too. So I think this was huge for their rotation. So big move by LA.
Finally, the Giants.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I kind of lost you there for a second. Oh. I think I lost it.
Yeah, I think we're back. This is technology, folks. Stream down. 2021, and we can't maintain Wi-Fi for 18 minutes, guys. Come on, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But speaking of getting back on track. Speaking of the Dodgers rotation, which already seemed almost impossible to beat. I mean, just from top to bottom. If they had the guy who, well, we won't speak his name right now because he's a terrible human. But if they had that guy also on that staff, I mean, geez, I highly doubt they make the move for Mad Max if they still have him in the rotation. But what do you think about him adding this fella right here, Cole Hamels, a guy we were just talking about, seems like has been pitching since we were very small baby children and has now returned once again?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think. I mean, I was watching him when I was a kid. Like you said, his last season, he pitched a full season. His numbers weren't too bad, but obviously he hasn't pitched a full season since 2019. He hasn't pitched at all this season. I don't mind the move for now. They need pitchers, obviously, with Kershaw on the IL. They picked up Duffy. He's on the IL. But I wouldn't, I mean, we haven't seen him, so I can't really say much, but I mean, he's aging. I think he's 37 now.
Yep.
So I don't know if he's going to be a guy they want to use in the postseason, maybe out of the bullpen or something, but I don't see him being a starter with Kershaw back. And they have a strong rotation already. I mean, I think Urias is one of the more underrated pitchers in the big league. So, and he's a lefty. So,
what do you do with Hamels whenever your rotation is healthy? Is this a guy that are you going to be able to tell this guy to suck it up and come out of the bullpen? I mean, he's Cole Hamels. Like that's going to be an interesting situation later in the year. But I agree. Once these guys are healthy, it's probably not going to stay in the rotation. But for the time being, he's there. Decent season with the Cubs a couple of years ago. The last time we saw him pitch a full season, pitched I think one game last year and then opted out, which all good with that. But my thing with him was he put on that pitching clinic for basically what amounted to 2/3 of the league a couple of weeks ago, and it sure seemed like it took scouts and teams a minute to reach out. And that would make me nervous if I were Dodgers fans, just because, man, I mean, you had 20 teams watching this guy. 20 teams could have signed him basically on the spot, and then it takes a few weeks, and then the Dodgers go out and grab him. Kind of interesting to me. Not one of the teams that I thought would go out and grab Cole Hamels, but hey, they've got him. They're the Dodgers. They can go out and buy everybody if they want to. That's the power of being a Dodger. So. Good luck to him, and good luck coming out of the bullpen possibly in September, Cole. I mean, you're just not going to take Clayton's job, man. You can't walk into LA and be like, Kershaw, get to the back of the pen, man. I'm here.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Tell the juiced up Urias is 23 years old out there, throwing the ball 100 mile an hour. You're not going to replace that guy. So unfortunately, he's going to have to head to the bullpen. Now, while we're on the subject of National League playoff teams, since I do believe the Dodgers, do you think the Dodgers win the NL West, first of all? Do you think they come out on top in that division?
Yeah, I really think they do. I mean, especially with the Tatis injury news. I mean, I know the Padres are further back, and obviously, but watching the Giants, they're having trouble with the Diamondbacks. I'm pretty sure they're getting blown out today again.
Yep.
They took care of business last night, but they've just been struggling. I mean, I think this team's kind of starting to come back down to earth. Chris Bryant was a huge signing for them, but when you look at this lineup, you weren't thinking 68-40 at this point in the season. No. Not at all, especially with the way the Padres have been playing. So, I mean, I think this team's coming back down to earth, and we'll see what happens.
I tend to agree. I think the Dodgers probably pull this out, though. I kept waiting for myself to be, I kept waiting for everyone to be right about the Giants. Like we all expected, like, man, I don't know how they're winning with that roster. Like, not that the roster's bad. It's just very meh. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel about that roster. It's just, and everybody just kind of expected them to come back down to earth, maybe be a tad above 500 at this point. But like you said, no one expected them to be this far over 500. And to basically dominate the West there for a couple of months, it was kind of vice versa. We all had to wait for the Dodgers to kind of get their stuff back together. So, but now that the Dodgers do seem back together, Mookie's hitting the ball now. I mean, I do think they'll pull away and win the NL West. That being said, that makes the NL wildcard race kind of even more exciting. Because that West, I mean, as you just said, the Tatis injury, that throws a little bit of a wrench in the race. And the Giants finally coming back down to earth, that kind of makes things a little more interesting because we thought we were going to see just this NL West dominated wildcard race. And now maybe they do allow a team from the Central. Well, not the Central. The Central's terrible. But maybe another team from the NL East sneaks in or something like that. Who do you think runs away with this NL wildcard race? Who's going to be just good enough to not win their division?
It's so close. I mean, I was having the same conversation with Tanner last week. I mentioned the Reds. He kind of shot that down, but I mean, they've been playing some decent baseball. Obviously, I like Philly right now. I think actually Philly's going to pull away in that division, to be honest with you. But I think it's really going to be a West dominated. They might even sneak all three of those teams into the playoffs. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be interesting, like because they're all gonna have to play each other obviously a lot more than everyone else. So if they start to beat up on each other, we'll see what happens. It's gonna be really fun to watch though with those three teams.
Absolutely. That'll be the thing down the stretch. Are these three teams in the NL West that are amazing? Are they just going to beat the crap out of each other and, let somebody else slide in the NL?
Yeah.
I agree with what you said about the Phillies, man. I love the Phillies right now. I love Zach Wheeler, and Bryce Harper is red hot. I mean, crazy hot, which I love to see. Love that guy. I think the Phils go on a run here late in the season, and if they aren't able to win that division, maybe they are able to sneak in on the wild card. But I think the Phils may be able to end up taking the East. And if they do, and Harper stays this high, look for Bryce to get some MVP votes this season. I mean, kind of just if you're looking for some really hot odds on a bet to make right now for MVP, I think you can get Bryce at like 30, 35 to 1 right now. Not a bad bet to take for a little bit of money. He may not win it, but man, he's definitely making a case right now. Him and George Springer, since the All-Star break, those two are just going crazy. And Juan Soto, those three have just kind of went insane since the All-Star break. But moving over to the AL wildcard race, I don't know what to make of this wildcard race at all whatsoever, because there are great teams in the AL, including the Yankees, that are still underplaying, in my opinion, completely. That could, I mean, the Yankees have a roster that could explode at any second and go on a 15-20 game tear where they win 12, 13, out of 15 or something like that. So I am terrified to even make suggestions at this AL wildcard race. What do you think?
I mean, obviously, I am a bit biased here because I'm a Yankees fan, but I like what I've been seeing from them. 7-3 in their last 10. I mean, and the Red Sox have looked awful, 3-7 in their last 10. So it's starting to go up. Yeah, and they lost their division lead to the Rays in that series, and now the Tigers are beating up on them when the Tigers have no business being a team that's supposed to be could be a division champ, leading the AL wildcard race. That's going to be a crazy race. I'm more interested in the AL wildcard race actually than the NL. There's just so many teams in the mix, even Seattle, the Angels, and all the teams from the AL East besides the Orioles. The Blue Jays I'm looking right now are only 3 games back, and they're hot. So that's going to be a crazy race.
That's my fun one, right? That's the one. That's the team I'm looking at. That's my have fun team right there this year. With the Cardinals being so bad, I have lashed on to the Blue Jays wagon just because they're fun. I love Bo Bichette. I mean, love Vladdy, Cavan. Just love this young team, and now Springer's finally healthy and really starting to get going up there. They added a little bit of pitching. I still don't think they have the pitching to make any kind of deep run in the playoffs, but do they have enough to pull out the AL wild card? Maybe. We'll see. That's where I like to I kind of lean on your team here, the Yankees. I know that they've underplayed. I know how they've looked at times, but the bottom line is they have a pitching staff and they have hitters that I trust in the playoffs and down the stretch late, in a late September game, 1 game back of the wild card or whatever. I trust Aaron Judge. I trust Giancarlo Stanton. I trust these guys, whether they've been bad or not. And these young guys for the Blue Jays, maybe I don't trust them as much. I mean, hard not to trust Vladdy at the plate in just about any situation right now. The man's hitting everything. But I have this feeling, man, the Yankees are going to go on a great run here at the end of August, beginning of September. And by the end of September, we may be having a completely different conversation, maybe about a division, because nobody seems to want to hold on to that AL East this year.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I mean, the Red Sox were kind of another team at the beginning of the year. I thought they were the AL Giants. I mean, this is a team I'm like, oh, Devers is good, Bowie's good. Yeah, but they just didn't have – I didn't think their pitching staff could get it. And, I mean, you've got Eovaldi, you've got Garrett Richards. Oh, there's my cat. Good job, cat. Way to be a guest on the show. You just didn't have – there was no real ace there.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of 4.5 ERA guys, some back-end starters. But outside of the AL East teams, because that's kind of another – we could give the AL wild card to any of the East teams. Who else are you looking at here? Who else like you said, the West. This is interesting to me. Can the Angels make a run here? Is it too late for the Angels?
Well, my question is, when is Mike Trout coming back? Because I have just not heard any word on Mike Trout. It's been like I don't think they'll make that push without Mike Trout. They have Ohtani's probably leading the MVP race right now. Unfortunately for Vlad, actually, I mean, any other year he's running away with the MVP.
Absolutely.
But so I feel a bit bad for him because I also like him a lot. But I don't think they're making that run without Trout. Seattle's the closest team back that's not in the East, besides the A's, who are actually in the position, but they're 3 games back. But I think with Trout, the Angels could make that run, but I don't know when he's going to be back or if he'll be back at all. So it'll be interesting to see that.
A couple of weeks ago, he tweeted that he was flying with the team, and everybody got pumped, like, oh man, he's going to be back early. This is huge. And then I'm much like you. I have heard zero news from anyone about Trout since, and I also agree with you. The only way they can make a run is if you get the best player in the game back. And also, 100% agree on the AL wild card or the AL MVP. Unfortunately for Vladdy right now, it's Ohtani because, I mean, Ohtani might be the greatest baseball player who's ever lived as far as like just all around.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like this guy, at least not in a century. So it's unfortunate, but I always like to go back to, I believe it was this is a bit before our time, the 1942 season. Ted Williams hit, 403 that season, over 400. Obviously the only player to ever do that. He did not win MVP. Did not win. He hit 403. It just happened to be the same season that Joe DiMaggio hit 56 straight games. And of course, it ended up getting like 77 out of 78 he had to hit. What are the chances of a dude hitting over 400 and somebody having a 56-game hitting streak in the same season?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
I mean, if there were ever a time for a co-MVP, man, that would have been the time to break out the co-MVP right there. I think we can do that. But it kind of comes down to, with me, I know he's kind of lost hold on it now, but Vladdy kind of had that shot to possibly win a triple crown.
I was just going to ask you that. I was going to say, if Vladdy wins the triple crown, you have to give it to him, right?
Yeah, then what do you do? Like, what do you do? Yeah. And it's crazy the way WAR works. I really wish Fangraphs and Baseball Reference would start adding Ohtani's WAR together. Like, I think that is not cool, man. Like, that is not what he's worth, and we all know it. Like, it's double that, and we know it. But I hate looking at the WAR list, and Ohtani's so far down, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. But yeah, that if he pulls off the triple crown, man, it sucks because, like I said, Ohtani might be this might be the greatest season we're seeing an MLB player ever play. But I gotta give it to the triple crown, man. That's, I mean, pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got an outside chance at it, but it's going to be tough for him. It's the batting average, really, that there's just got so many guys up there. I mean, I think it's Brantley leading the leading right now, so it'll be tough to catch him. I think he's 10 points ahead of him.
Absolutely. That will be tough. And kind of one other thing I wanted to touch on the AL wildcard is a team that no one ever mentions, the Billy Beane and his Athletics. They made a few moves.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, like you can never count the A's out, even there in the West. Of course, I think Houston probably just slaps around the rest of that division for the rest of the year and kind of runs away with it as far as the West itself goes.
Yeah.
But if you're going to keep the Angels in it, we got it. We can't count the Athletics out. That being said, if the Athletics want to have any shot, Matt Chapman's got to get it going, man. I mean, he has just had a terrible season. Olson's had a pretty good year. I mean, they've got some pieces there, but they have to have Matt Chapman do something, anything for that team.
Yeah.
He's been putrid this year. Moving on, let's talk about some MVP races. So we talked about the AL MVP a little bit. I mentioned Bryce for the NL MVP. Who's your NL MVP right now? Who do you got?
Yeah, that's so funny because I literally was just talking to one of my buddies today, and with the news of Tatis possibly being out for the season, I love Harper to win the MVP, especially if the Phillies make that run. I don't think Turner's stats are a bit better than Harper's right now, but I just don't think he did enough with the Nationals to put, like, you got to take into account, obviously, the team's success. I mean, now with the Dodgers, it's kind of weird because he didn't have that early season success, but if they make that late season push, maybe he wins it. But at this point, if the Phillies make that run that I think they'll make, I love Harper to win MVP.
I think you're 100% right. That's my favorite right now is Bryce. He's so locked in this last month. Really reminds me of the Bryce from a few years ago, which I love seeing. I've been wanting to see him do this in Philly since he's gotten there. Philly deserves to, let Philly win a little bit. So yeah. I'm happy for Philly. I think Bryce is the favorite. I think there are a few. Look for Mookie Betts. It took him a long time to wake the bat up this year. He's really starting to get it together. And, of course, we've seen Mookie go on runs that, can only be compared to somebody like Mike Trout or Acuna, somebody like that. Look for Mookie Betts to make if he would have to have an amazing last couple of months. Mm-hmm. But if the Dodgers get red hot, I could see Mookie just sneaking in the door out of nowhere and trying to steal. But outside of Harper, I would obviously I'd have to say DeGrom. I know he's been hurt now for a few weeks. I hate giving the Cy Young and the MVP to the same guy, but when it's the possibly the greatest pitching run that I've ever seen, or possibly in MLB history, I would lean DeGrom outside of Harper, but 100% agree. So we've got the Ohtani Vladdy race in the AL, and right now we've got Bryce kind of running away with the NL a little bit, as hot as he's been. Who do you got winning it all this season? That is my final question of the day. Right now, in early August, post-trade deadline, we know how the teams are set. We can see who's getting hot. Who's your NL winner? Who's your AL winner? Who's headed to the series this year?
So last time I was on with Tanner, like I said, I mean, I made my statement. I said the Yankees were going to win it all. If Rizzo keeps playing the way he has been, I think they definitely have that shot. But outside of them, because once again, I am a bit biased. I mean, honestly, I think Milwaukee hasn't been getting talked about enough. They have a solid enough pitching rotation to go on a run like that with Burns, Woodruff. I mean, that's a solid team that nobody's been talking about a whole lot. And I think that the NL West, obviously, they have a few of the favorites, but I think that team is going to face some tough matchups coming down the road, having to play each other. So I think that those teams are going to come into the playoffs a bit beat up and ran down. So I think you can look at another team to kind of jump out and steal a spot in the World Series. So I'd say the Brewers are kind of my sleeper team that I like from the NL.
I like that with the Brewers. That pitching staff is deadly. Early this season, even with the Brewers so far out in the NL Central, their offense was so bad. I thought they were going nowhere. Then Yelich something seemed to click.
Yeah.
Willie Adames comes over from Tampa, and suddenly he's murdering baseballs out of nowhere. Not exactly what he's known for, but it's what he's doing. So I love that they grabbed Colton Wong from the Cardinals in the offseason, or signed him rather. He was a free agent. I love some of the moves they've made. If their offense can stay consistent, doesn't even have to be great. If it can stay consistent, I like that pick out of the NL. My pick out of the NL would be the Phillies right now, and that is completely, to me, on the arms of Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola and on the back of Bryce Harper. So I would love to see the Phils come out of the NL just the way they've been playing lately. So I've got the Phils coming out of the NL. Out of the AL, I'm going Houston. I hate it. I hate it, but I'm going.
I hate it too. You got it's a good pick.
God, they're just. I mean, Brantley hits everything, man. He really does. And then you got Bregman coming back. If Bregman comes back healthy, stays healthy down the stretch here, and can, if he's the Alex Bregman that we're used to seeing, man, that's a tough team. The pitching staff maybe not quite what it has been in years prior, but when your offense can score 7, 8, 9 runs a night, you don't really need that pitching staff anymore. So I think I'm going to go Houston Phillies, and I hope the Phillies sweep them.
Yeah, that's a stacked lineup. I mean, I was kind of like in the opposite kind of mood with them, but with the Giants, like, how could that lineup like not be performing? They have Hoskins, Real Muto, Segura, Harp, like that. That's just a stacked lineup. McCutchen. I don't see how that team, like, they're going to eventually break out. They're starting their breakout right now, so I like that pick too.
I love that we're getting a few resurgences this year from guys like McCutchen, kind of undervalued the last couple of years, kind of flew under the radar, and now he's kind of brought a little bit of the Pittsburgh Pirate Andrew McCutchen back out to Philly. So I love that team. Those are my picks. That's going to do it for us today. Would you like to leave them with anything, Vince? Is there anything you would like to say? Would you like to tell everyone? Scream from the rooftops that the Yankees aren't dead yet, baby. Let's go.
They're not dead yet. Rizzo is here. He's Rizzo's gonna bring this team to a long playoff road.
In closing, I can't tell you how happy I am to get Anthony Rizzo out of my division on to pester another team. He looks great in those pinstripes. I'm rooting for you guys. For Vincent, for Erik, Sports 2.0 Network. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.